Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Fighter and the Analyst. I'm your host, GK The Fight Analyst, and this here is my man, the Joker himself, Peter Petties. What's up, bro? How's it going?
Chilling. Not bad, not bad. Happy Saturday, peeps.
Happy Saturday, man. So, how's training going? I want to know what's been new in the last week or so before we really get down into breaking down these fights.
Oh man, it's been a crazy week. Honestly, I've been running off little sleep, but it's been rewarding. Just a lot of grinding, and what I mean by that is early mornings, late nights, a lot of practicing, work. But the cool thing with me, like I said, I just put my work laptop on the side of the mat and return emails when I get my time to. So a lot of time management. Outside of that, it's been a good week. I can't complain.
That's great, man. I mean, you're lucky to have that flexibility to be able to, bring your job to the gym, be able to work out and get in shape, get ready for a fight, as well as, make your income on the side as well. So that's fantastic to hear because, we've seen like fighters like Jessica Rose Clark, where she showed that screenshot of only having $17 in her bank account prior to her last UFC fight. So it's good to see that you're not in that predicament that some of these other fighters are. Unfortunately, in this sport doesn't pay a ton of money out there.
Yeah, I mean it's hard. I would say I was Jessica Rose Clark before I used a little. I was a little wiser. I think the biggest thing, and one thing I always try and recommend to people getting into the sport is you gotta love it because it's one of those things where it's gonna beat you up before it pays off. At the same time, you also have to think a little bit wiser outside of. So like my first initial thought was came after the Contender. I was serving and everything, bartending. And then I had an injury on the Contender where I sprained my ankle prior to my fight. And then after the fight, I couldn't serve because my ankle was jacked up, so I couldn't walk. So, at that point, that's when I kind of wisened up in the sport. It was like, I never want to be in a point to where my livelihood is based off MMA to an extent. But also, I didn't want to downplay the training. I think the hardest thing for any fighters up and coming, whether you're in the UFC, and what I mean by that is the lower tier, like even your first fights when you get in the UFC, you're not making enough money to make it last. So I think you always have to try and find something career-wise that's going to work hand in hand with training as well as being able to have a stable income and live a decent life. So, that's the hard balance, but that's the life we choose.
Yeah, man. I mean, it sucks because even they talk about boxing and MMA and comparing the two, but if you really do think about it, the boxers aren't making making that much more than these MMA fighters. If you're not a top tier boxer, you're not making good money. There's a reason why some of these boxers are fighting like 100 times on the amateur circuit because they need to get to where they are so they could get to the big fights once they make it pro. So this is a tough sport. It's a tough job for you guys. I'm glad that you guys put on a show for the fans for essentially pennies on the dollar, to be honest with you, and it really does suck. But hopefully, the sponsorships eventually start paying more for these fighters. Maybe when it comes to medicals, so, stuff like that start actually going your way. Because I mean, whereas Jessica Rose Clark, the reason why how she was at so low is because she's only fought twice in the last 2 years. She's had injuries during that time. She had setbacks. Then she had to get, I think, surgery. So there was a lot of things reasoning for that $17. Not like she was just flat out broke. I mean, when she's paying things out of pocket, all that money goes super, super quick. So whatever you do make is just going to fly right out the door. And a lot of people are just giving her shit like, oh, you should have another job and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Should manage your money better. But like, they really don't know what it entails. So they're just spewing a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I think most people like when I got into the sport or said I really wanted to commit to this. I was 18, and I remember thinking like, man, they make so much money and this, that, and the third. And it's similar to I always like to relate it to a kid. When you're a kid in high school, you think $1,000 is a lot. when you're a kid in college, you think 10,000 is a lot. And then eventually, as you get up there, it's really tough to rationalize or understand all the things that come with each and every sport. I think the biggest thing is everything's a grind. So, like, for example, I couldn't imagine doing my job and that just during quarantine when everything was shut down. That shit sucked. Being a regular person sucks too. So,
Yeah.
if you have to choose your battles in life, and I think whatever makes life suck less, you just got to go for it. So, like for me, I don't mind doing the 20-hour days between working and working out because it makes life enjoyable. Once I get to that fight day and, I get to take off, relax, I get to fight in 3 hours, the weight cut's done. There's no better enjoy like fulfillment purpose, outside of the fight when you get that win and everything's paid off. That's what makes life life. But I mean, all the in between is the part, the parts that suck. People don't realize, the 2 hour jiu-jitsu practices, the hour of strength and conditioning, the 2 hour striking classes, and your body's still resetting at that point. So, you got to take the good with the bad and just enjoy it at the end of the day.
Man, what you guys go through, especially yourself, doing 2, 3 days, 2, 3 times a day at the gym, let alone myself can't even get my ass to the gym once a day. So I can only imagine how, grueling that is on your body. And you're doing it, what, 5, 6, 7 days a week, which is, which is insane on top of, having some type of life outside of the gym. So that's super tough. But when it like did you hear about Titan FC, the CEO of Titan FC, and how
Yeah,
he's going into fight at like I think 49 years old. He's like it's something that's a fulfillment in his life. He's like I want to learn more about fighting. I want to learn about his fighters, and it's just something that he wants to do. Like, what do you think about that?
I respect it. At the end of the day, I think it's one of those things where I don't think if you read any blogs or any Instagram or any Twitter, especially after a fighter loses, you got all the fans bashing them or even people who place money on them bashing them.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, fighting sucks. Like being a fighter, it is not the easiest career choice. And I think a lot of people don't understand until they get into it. For example, like at our gym, we have, you have regular people who can come in for class and, they're just doing an hour class and they're beat, let alone you add in if you were to do the fighting lifestyle and then you have to eat and you have to manage your weight, you have to manage your bills outside of fighting. Like there's so many different stressors that people do not understand or don't, add up to a fight. And I think that's the number one thing that people don't add into the fighting thing. Like it's not like the NBA where everybody is rich.
Yeah.
Even your bench players are rich, or the NFL where everybody is rich. Even the practice squad is chilling. They don't have to go to another job outside of learning the playbook. So it's different variables and everything. I think you have to understand that. I do believe MMA will eventually get there, but not until maybe my kids' kids type of generation. Because, at the end of the day, it's still an early sport, or realistically, only you might even be able to say the third generation of athletes, in
Yeah.
MMA and UFC. So, we're just now getting to that point where it's becoming a little mainstream, even though still people think the UFC is the only MMA league out there.
Yeah, I know. Like they're like, I'm gonna go train. Like those people that really don't know much, they're not saying I'm gonna go train MMA. I'm gonna go train UFC. So they really don't know too much about the sport. But that's where ESPN comes in. They're putting MMA on the limelight. They're putting it out there. So hopefully, maybe with Venom as their new sponsor is really gonna help more than Reebok. I don't know because I think Reebok's I think it's a way bigger company than Venom is. But I'm just kind of waiting for the new Venom gear. I think that's going to be freaking dope. Some of those walkout gear with Venom on it with that little the Viper. I think that's pretty dope. So what do you think about last week's fights, man? Colby versus Woodley. Oh man, what a beatdown. I didn't expect like that. I mean, like I expected him to win But man, Woody did not put up a fight whatsoever.
It's tough because I think the fights went exactly how I envisioned everything, except for the one that I bet on in all my parlays and TJ Laramie. I'm pretty sure everybody's hurting with me in that one. Um, Outside of that, I think the fights went exactly, as we spoke. The
Yeah,
dog Damon Jackson came
bro,
through.
everything from top to bottom, other than Laramie, came through. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, man.
Yep, and he was like one of the biggest favorites of the night. But no, it sucks for um Woodley to go out like that. I mean, hardest part is I think in his head he's talking about changing coaches, but I firmly believe sometimes you just gotta look in the mirror, man. And what I mean by that, even if you change coaches, you have to address what is losing you these fights. And I think for me, if I was him, I have to look, I'm not that active. Why don't you get your cardio up? Maybe and work on your activity per round. But sometimes it just becomes to responsibility. At the end of the day, responsibility and understanding that. And that's the only way to really evolve. I mean, at 36, 37, I don't know how much we can expect from Woodley to evolve. He's had the title. What more can you really want out of a career? I'm not telling him to hang it up. I don't think certain people should. I would never be the one to tell anyone to hang it up, but I do firmly believe he has to look in the mirror and say, all right, how did I lose these past few fights? I lost to Gilbert by being a deer in the headlights. I lost to Kobe by being a deer in the headlights. I lost to, who else did he lose? Oh, Kamaru by being a deer in the headlights. There's three things. At some point, you have to, I don't know if you have to train more, if you have to do more conditioning to get your body to throw more, but at some point you have to address those weaknesses and evolve, or else the game is going to take off from you, Like myself, I firmly believe when I looked at my PFL fights, yes, I can make an excuse, but at the end of the day, I have to address my ground game. So I've been doing jiu-jitsu every day. Every day. I've been doing wrestling every day, working on positioning, still doing my striking, but addressing the little things that have lost me fights. And in the long run, whether it's this year, whether it's next year, it's one of those things that are going to slowly, gradually get better. And I think that's the one thing. If you want to, you can't have an ego in this sport, man, because it will pass you before you know it.
Absolutely. And I think Woodley's ego is really what's keeping him from progressing. I mean, granted, he's 36 years old. He's been around the block. He's been there, done that. Champion, one of the greatest welterweight champions ever. He'll go down in history. He'll be a Hall of Famer. He has that type of legacy behind him. But, I think it's at a point where it's like these guys are just passing you up. When in the first round, I thought Woodley was going to come after Colby. You saw him come forward. You saw him you saw Woodley that we never seen the first minute, and then he resulted back into being the same Woodley that we seen over the last 2-3 fights of him before that. And definitely changing coaches is not going to be the answer here. I mean, he was getting in looks from different people too. He was training over at with Duke Rufus and Rufus Sport, as well as his main training partner. So it's not like he wasn't getting in different looks. He just didn't do anything with it. He didn't progress. He didn't do anything. Kobe just played his game, outvalued him, and beat him to shit. It's crazy. It's like I've never seen we've seen it time and time again, but I mean, I didn't think it was going to be that bad of an ass whooping to the point where he broke a rib and just quit. I don't know if he quit, but I mean, breaking a rib is different. I've never broken a rib, so I don't know the pain tolerance. Everybody's pain tolerance is different, but you're in a fight, man. Some of these dudes, some of you guys are breaking stuff in there, and you have someone like Josh Emmett who fought on a torn ACL for 15 full minutes. Yeah, 15 full minutes. Some people got that fight in him. I don't know if Woodley has that fight in him anymore. I think he's doing too much outside of the UFC right now that he's not really worrying about his fighting career at this point, and which is okay. I mean, he's at the point where he's done everything he could possibly do, and maybe he should go that route. That's just how I see it. But I hate seeing him go out like that because he's a great fighter. But yeah, just it sucks. But unfortunately, we did well on every single fight except for the one big heavy favorite. But we did call the biggest dog on that card as well, which I was very impressed with. We called it to a T. We even said that he was going to gas and he was going to get a late submission. Sure as shit, gassed, late submission. I'm like, damn.
Yep.
Like,
I'm wishing I put more on that. I'm wishing I put more, but that's how it goes.
I know, man. I'm like, damn. And I got to talk to Derek Minner after all the fights were said and done. I had to tell this man I bet against him. So he kind of was rubbing it in my face and laughing at it. But then he got a little upset when I told him that the only way he could win was by submission. And I thought he got a little upset because he's like, I could have beaten him anywhere. But I mean, when you got over 20-something wins via submission, an outsider looking in, you're going to think, okay, so that's your path to victory. That's how you're going to win. You're not going to stand there and strike with someone. But he looked great. And I do think David Jackson versus Derek Minner, would be a fantastic fight.
I agree. I definitely agree.
Great scramble match there. I think that would be I think there would be a great fight. But anyways, enough about the past. Let's talk about tonight. Great pay-per-view on tap. UFC 253. 2 titles up for grabs. Middleweight championship between Israel Adesanya, Paulo Costa, and the light heavyweight championship between Dominic Reyes and Jan Blachowicz. But first, let's start on the preliminary card in the light heavyweight division between Hadis Ibrahimov and Danilo Marquez. Right now, Ibrahimov is a minus 172 favorite, and the comeback on Marquez is a plus 162 underdog. Who do you got?
At this point, I am leaning towards Kadis. I think that's how you say it. The Russian. And mainly just by, strength of schedule. It's hard to really go with a guy, Danilo, who has most recently fought a 5-4 guy and an 0-16 guy. Yep. And then anytime he's been put up against any type of competition, he's lost. And what I mean by that, not even competition, a guy 13-6 and he lost. And then, you got a guy who's 6-6 and he gets TKO'd. So it's really hard to try and bet with that guy. And his track record isn't the best. At least with Kadis, you have all of 3 of his losses have been in the UFC, I believe. And, though he hasn't fought the highest competition, I mean, at the end of the day, you take 3 UFC losses, his pre-UFC record is better than Marquez. So I'm going with Kadis on this one.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking Ibrahimov as well. Marquez is just a filler. Just being honest, he shouldn't be in the UFC. He's a middleweight, moving up to light heavyweight as well. I think Ibrahimov should probably make quick work of him. He should. I mean, this should be as much of a guaranteed win in the UFC can really give somebody. If he really doesn't, he's obviously going to get cut. You can't go 0-4 and still have a contract. But they're giving him every opportunity to win this fight. Marquez, I don't think he's going to have anything for him. Marquez is also flying across the world from Brazil all the way to Abu Dhabi as well. He's never fought over there. And while, Ibrahimov lives on that side of the world. So I think that does play a little bit of a factor here. But either way, I'm taking Ibrahimov here. He should win inside the distance as well. He's finished most of his guys on the regional scene, and Marquez is a regional scene fighter. He's not a UFC caliber fighter. So Ibrahimov all day, minus 172. All right, next up in the heavyweight division, we have a fight between Jeff Hughes and Juan Espino. Right now, Espino's a minus 290 favorite, and the comeback on Hughes, the plus 260 underdog. Who do you got?
Looking at this one's kind of a tough one. The number one thing I will say is Espino, they both seem like they're coming off big layoffs. I think, No, Hughes hasn't fought since 2019. But also, it's just I feel like this is really a big toss up for the line to be that huge. I'm probably sitting on it. If I had to really lean, it wouldn't be too bad to go with Hughes. But I'm sitting on this one. This one's really hard to even get a read on.
Yeah, there's no possible way Espino should be a minus 290 favorite coming off a 2-year layoff at 40 years old as a heavyweight. He's only fought once in the UFC. I just don't know why he's such a big favorite. I mean, don't get me wrong, he looked good in his time in the Ultimate Fighter. I believe he won the Ultimate Fighter as well. But he didn't beat anybody good to get there. He didn't beat anybody good in the house other than Maurice Green, who also beat Jeff Hughes. But the line is way too wide. I'm taking Jeff Hughes here. I think we're getting great value. I'm not saying go and load up on him, but I just bet Jeff Hughes by decision, which should be his likely path to victory, plus 520. Plus 520 to win a decision. Jeff Hughes comes out of Stipe, camp. So it's defend, wrestling, and strike. That's exactly what they do. They defend the takedowns and they strike. Jeff Hughes is a way better striker. He has decent, striking movement to stay on the outside. Espino's obviously slow when it comes to striking, and Espino's going to try to get this fight to the mat and get a sub because that's how he wins majority of his fights. And nothing's going to change here. He's going to want to get Hughes up against the cage, take him down, and get the sub. Well, if Hughes is able to defend the takedown, to stay on his feet, it's his fight all day, and you're giving me him to win a decision at plus 520 in a 30-foot octagon. Mind you, this is a 30-foot octagon tonight. This is not a 25-footer. So you're going to see a lot more decisions tonight than we've seen in the last month or two. So I'm taking Jeff Hughes here. I think we're getting good value. Even 260 is good, but I'm just taking a small stab on him to win by decision plus 520. So, all right. Next up in the light heavyweight division, we have a fight between Alexa Kamer and William Knight. Right now, Kamer is a minus 160 favorite, and come back on William Knight is a plus 150 underdog. Who do you got?
And I think this one's another tough one. As we got William Knight, who I think is still relatively green. You can't really get a good read on him because I feel like every fight he's losing and then he comes back, except for Teflon.
Yeah, where Teflon just blasted him early.
Yeah, I mean, we have a little joke that we have at the gym saying Teflon got lucky that the ref stopped it early before William Knight got out of turtle and beat his ass. But at the end of the day, it's one of those where I think for both of these guys, it's hard to really predict how good they are. What I mean by that, you got Leska, who's only 6-0. However, he has a quality win against Justin Ledet, who I think is actually pretty legit. I like Justin Ledet's hands and everything. But then you got William Knight, who against Brundage, he came back from the initial onslaught to come out and finish him. However, at the end of the day, I wasn't really impressed because it's like Brundage, you kind of saw if he wasn't going to win the wrestling battle, eventually he was going to get asked. Yep. So I think, it's a tough call. I haven't seen enough of Aleska to really say who's going to win this fight or to really bet on him. I will say the Justin Ledet win on his record is actually impressive. But outside of that, before that fight, he has a relatively unknown resume. And then, you look at William Knight, he has a relatively unknown resume other than his most recent contender win, the contender win last year. But outside of that, it's a lot of guys who are 0-0, 1-0, or maybe a 4-5 guy here. So it's one of those things where you have two prospects fighting each other. And at that point, I think it just becomes a coin flip. So in that coin flip, I am going to lean with Aleska on that coin flip. That's just me not really liking William Knight altogether.
Yeah, I can see that because I am all over William Knight in this fight. Reason being is because he doesn't have to defend takedowns in this fight at all. He literally is going to be a kickboxing match because Kamer is another Stipe protege. He defends takedowns, and he wants to strike. Well, if you watched him against Fabio Cherant in the Contender Series, he got rocked in round 1, came back, I think round 2, got a flying knee knockout. Still he's still very green. I just don't think he's that good. He's only 6-0. I still think Knight has fought better competition. I think Cody Brundage would beat Alexa Kamer. Tafon would beat Alexa Kamer. I mean, let's just be real. I don't think Kamer's really that good. And Kamer has never been hit as hard as he's going to get hit tonight. Justin Ledet is not a crazy power puncher. He's a very technical boxer. So him taking damage from him is not taking damage from William Knight. William Knight is a former heavyweight fighter. He's stocky. He's got some insane power. And I think once he touches his chin, Kamer is going to be walking backwards, and he's like, okay, I don't want to get hit like that anymore. And then if he's going to try to brawl with him, that's a big no-no. If Knight was going against a guy that I know is going to try to take him down, I would take him. I would fade Knight. But this is a winnable fight for him. It's basically a 50-50. It's a 50-50 fight in a striking battle with a guy that's knocked out every single person other than Tafon in his MMA career. You're talking all 8 of his wins are by knockout. His amateur wins are all by knockout as well. I'm taking Knight all day. And then you give me a plus 150. Kamer's only 6-0. Faced no one. Beaten really no one other than Justin Ledet. I'm taking my shot on Knight as a dog, plus 150. I think he gets an early knockout here. An early knockout. And plus, Kamer hasn't fought in a while. Mm-hmm. So Knight is in shape. He's ready to go. He's battle tested. He's already fought this year. Kamer hasn't fought in 2020. And I think his last fight was in 2019 at some point. So
no, the Ledet was 2020, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was January.
Oh, okay, so yeah, I felt like it was so long ago, so I don't remember. So, but okay, so he fought in 2020. Okay, maybe that's not much of a big deal, but I'm taking Knight here. I think he wins by KO. I think he wins early. I think like a first round KO for him. To be honest with you, I think he's gonna come in and just knock his head off. All right, next up is it featherweight? Oh, it's a catchweight. In a catchweight bout of 150 pounds between Shane Young and Ludovit Klein. Right now, Klein is a minus 120 favorite, and the comeback on Shane Young is a plus 110 underdog. Who do you got?
This is another one. I really don't know much about either fighter. I know Klein is like a late addition.
Yeah.
How late is it?
I think he got this on like 4 or 5 days notice.
Yeah, so like anytime you get that, a late edition, I always try and see when their last fight was, and you look at that was February. However, at the same time, his record, pretty decent record. He's on a good win streak, I think like 8-fight win streak. So, it's a little tough, but anytime you have a guy who just came off a full camp and is going against someone on short notice, you always got to question the cardio. So I'm leaning towards Young on this, even though I'm probably not playing that today.
Yeah, I'm taking Young as well. I mean, he fights at a much better camp. Obviously, City Kickboxing. He has a full camp in. He got a new change of an opponent. Klein is a very good striker. He's very unorthodox. He's got some crazy kicks, very heavy kicks, head kick, knockouts. I mean, he's got some good power, but leaves himself open to counters all day. I think he could get taken down by Young. And you've seen a lot of steam on the Klein because he was a big dog, and then everybody started betting him because they seen his highlight tape. They seen that he's got knockouts. He's 16-2, but Young has been in there. I mean, Young came into the UFC. His very first fight as a UFC debut was against Alexander Volkanovski. As a debut, that's insane in itself. And now he trains with Volkanovski. He trains with Israel Adesanya. He trains with Brad Riddell. He trains with Dan Hooker. The squad. And that squad, I think, is absolutely sweeping house tonight. To give you a little bit of a preview of the rest of the fights. But, yeah, I think Shane Young, plus 110. I think that's a decent line. I mean, the guy, he was at one point a minus 165 favorite. And now we're getting him a plus 110. Now the line is bettable. Now you're getting good value on him. When it was at minus 165, I didn't want to take it. But now plus 110, he's a bet for me. All right, next up in the welterweight division, we have a fight between Diego Sanchez and Jake Matthews. Right now, Matthews is the biggest favorite on the card at minus 675, and to come back on Diego Sanchez, the plus 550 underdog. What do you got?
Man, this is another one where I feel like it should be such an easy bet on Jake Matthews. However, it just feels like all of the setup fluke type of fights where you have Diego somehow muster up a W against the young buck.
Right?
So I am wholeheartedly sitting on this. Maybe if you're looking to have a fun bet and just see maybe Diego Sanchez bullies this kid with his angry face and beats him up, or we get something to where it becomes a eye poke, or what was the situation with
Illegal knee. It was a
there
legal
you go,
knee. Yeah,
a legal knee. I mean, but at the end of the day, this should really be a slam dunk bet on
absolutely.
Matthews.
Yeah,
But at that line, I think the odds makers have made it to a point where it shouldn't be slammed up free money.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm totally sitting off this one unless if Diego does this, I will be surprised and mad that I did not put 100 on him at least.
Right. Jake Matthews should win this fight fairly easily. The Diego Nightmare Sanchez that we've known and loved years ago is absolutely gone. He's never coming back. He's not the same fighter anymore. He doesn't fight. He doesn't come forward. He doesn't like to brawl. He doesn't like to get hit. All he's doing is standing in there, pawing his hand out like this, and just staying on the outside, just running around the cage. Like, you can go watch his last couple fights. He fights very weird. His mind is just far gone. It's just, I don't know what happened to him, to be honest with you. Maybe it was too much of getting hit in the face. Maybe that's why he's trying to fight the way he is now. I really don't know what happened, but like, he's a completely different fighter. This should be Matthews all day. I don't want to tell people to go and put Matthews in every single play because we already know what happens with big, heavy favorites and stuff like that. So if you're going to make a play on Matthews, I would take a small stab on him by decision, which I think is like pretty much even money. But either way, I'd probably stay away from this fight altogether. All right, next up in the lightweight division, we have a fight between Brad Riddell and Alex De Silva. Right now, Riddell is on minus 290 favorite, and to come back on De Silva is a plus 260 underdog. Who do you got?
I think I'm going with Riddell, especially after the weigh-in, the weigh-in weirdness that De Silva did. Yeah, I'm heavy on Riddell. Riddell. I think City Kickboxing is about to sweep today. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm with them on that one.
Yeah, I'm all over Riddell here, and his striking is just levels above De Silva. And then if you really don't think that, go watch Alex De Silva versus Daniel Swain on the regional scene, and then you'll understand why I mean that, because his Riddell is way better. Daniel Swain almost finished De Silva in the first round in striking, not just the grappling. He was rocking him on the feet. And Daniel Swain, we've seen him against TJ Laramie. He quit on the stool on the Contender Series. So that's the kind of fighter that Riddell is going against. And Riddell has shown he's got the takedown defense. He can get up. He fought the takedowns against Mustafayev and Malarkey as well. And then obviously, being an ex-Tiger Muay Thai, striking instructor, and now he's a striking instructor for City Kickboxing. The dude's striking is legit. It's arguably one of the best at 155 pounds. That's how good it is. Defensively, he's not the greatest, but that's what you get with these Muay Thai strikers. They just come forward. They like to throw heavy hands, heavy leg kicks, and that's what he does. He ends every combination with those heavy leg kicks, and I think De Silva's legs are going to be shattered after this fight. And I think Riddell finally gets his first win inside the distance here. I mean, he almost did it against Malarkey. Should have been called. I had Riddell inside the distance in that fight too, so I was very upset. But I think Riddell absolutely rolls here and gets a good quality win. And goes 3-0. He'll be 3-0. All right. Next up in the featherweight division, right? Yeah. Featherweight division, we have a fight between Hakeem Dawodu and Zubara Tukugov. Right now, Duwadu is a plus 120 underdog, and the comeback on Zubara is a minus 130 favorite. Who do you got?
Man, I think this is a tough fight to call. As much as I want to go with Hakeem on this one, I just see him getting wrestled to death. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name. But
yeah, I just say Zubara because I can't pronounce the last name.
Yeah, Zubara, I just say, his stand up isn't bad, honestly. I don't think he stands and makes it a kickboxing match. I think he makes it an MMA fight in which he stands straight to takedown, back to standing, back to takedown. As soon as he gets comfortable on those legs, if Hakeem can stand up and keep the fight standing, I think he'll run away with it. But I just think it's very hard to really lean towards Hakeem. Especially honestly coming, I think this is all personal preference. I think seeing him have that split decision against Julio Arce doesn't really help either. And I think Zabara is like levels ahead of Julio Arce, so I'm leaning heavy on him.
Yeah, and then Julio Arce also took him down. That's not good. Having Julio Arce take you down is definitely not good coming into this fight. Also, Zubara missed weight by 4 pounds as well. Didn't look like he even attempted to cut anymore at a certain point. He wasn't going to go and try to cut more afterwards. He just gave up and weighed in and took his penalty. That shows me that, yes, he couldn't cut the weight, but he also didn't try to kill himself to cut the weight, which is a good thing. If you're betting on him, and knowing that he's gonna be the stronger fighter, and he's the wrestler, and he trains with Khabib, and all those Dagestani wrestling phenoms over there. So it's gonna be a really tough sledding, and then everybody's talking about Hakeem striking and the striking differential and yada yada yada. All these stats, blah 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 blah. And I'm a stats guy. Don't get me wrong, but every single time they do this, it's a letdown. Every single time they run the stats, he's amazing. He's striking. He's got this crazy differential. In comes the L because he's riding a 4 or 5 fight win streak as well. He's riding high, and yet he's a dog here. He's a 4 or 5 fight win streak, and he's a dog against Zubara. I think Zubara comes in and just takes him down, rinse and repeat. Duwadu really has to defend and knock him out because he's going to be in and around his legs the entirety of that fight. Because I think Zubara he can do that for 25 minutes if he really wanted to. And against I forgot who he fought 2 fights ago in the dead crazy heat with no AC. He was able to go in there and land over 6 takedowns against Lerone Murphy and just kept rinse and repeating. He attempted like 10 takedowns in that fight with no AC because that was a fight that I think it was in Abu Dhabi, but they had no AC, so it was crazy. People were just sweating like like no other. But yeah, I'm all over Zubara here. I think he takes him down and just beats him up. I mean, and if you think about it, he's only got a draw to Lerone Murphy where he won 2 of those rounds, might I add. He won 2 of those rounds. And then he had a split decision loss to Hanato Morcano as well. So very, very high level. Then he comes in and knocks out Kevin Aguilar in the first round, which was very impressive. I didn't see that coming. I mean, I thought Kevin Aguilar, had a good chin, and he just clocked him once, and that was all she wrote. So yeah, I'm taking Zubara here. I think he's got a good path to victory here, and he uses it very, very well. All right. So next up in the women's bantamweight division, we have a fight between Ketlin Vieira and Zahara Eubanks. Right now, Vieira is a minus 195 favorite and come back on Zahara Eubanks, plus 180 underdog. Who do you got?
It's funny you're saying Sahara. It's Sarge.
It is?
Yeah, it's Sarge.
Really? Yeah. Wait, isn't that her nickname, or is that like?
No, it's Sarge. The J is pronounced Sajara.
Oh, Sarge. My bad, Sarge. I'm bad with names. Don't yeah. So I'll know that from because like when I look at her and then you look at the name, it's Sajara, and then is it Sarge Eubanks? So, but okay, I got you. Anyways, go ahead.
All good, all good. My personal thing, this is my girl, Sarge, the homie, former Team Lloyd Irvin black belt. At the end of the day, like I said, I'm still kicking myself for not pulling the trigger a
That was my
month
fault.
ago.
That was my fault, man. That was my fault. My
It's
bad.
all good, all good. I didn't know enough about her opponent, but even then, this one I think it's a tough fight only because even the weigh-in picture, the chick is big. I will say, Sarge, I do firmly believe though she can make 35 easily. I do believe she should be at 25. I just think the 25 cut is a little bit too much to do without professional help. And being over in Fight Island, I think she's just trying to get a quick, back in the cage, quick turnaround fight. Nothing wrong with that. New contract. I think this is a tough fight. I think stylistically it's a tough fight too because it's not the same type of jiu-jitsu girl that you got. You got a girl, both girls who both are black belts in jiu-jitsu and both who like top position. They're not going to relax on their back. So then it comes down to the striking battle. I do believe Vieira's a little bit taller. With that said, I'm going to play something small on Sarge in a parlay. But outside of that, I'll probably just sit on this one for sure.
Yeah, this is a very hard fight for Sarge. Because, for the first time ever, she utilized what I've been wanting to see from her forever. She finally used her wrestling to get down. She's a jiu-jitsu world champion, multi-time world champion. She looked amazing against Avila. Amazing. And, she should be doing that in every fight. But here lies Vieira, who's twice her size. I mean, she's got a 4 or 5 inch height advantage. She's extremely, extremely strong. She's never been taken down in her UFC career thus far. She's defended every single takedown, and then against McMahon, and there's another one as well. I forgot who the hell she fought against. Another decent, bigger type of opponent. So McMahon and Kat Zingano as well. She was able to defend those takedowns. She even submitted Sarah McMahon as well. So, and then she was able to defend takedowns against Ashley Evans Smith, who was, I think she wrestled in college, if I'm not mistaken. So those show good signs of her takedown defense. But then she got absolutely starched by Irene Aldana. And then if we backtrack, if she beat Aldana, she was next in line for a title shot. That's how high up on the totem pole she is at the bantamweight division. And I think, a win here against Sarge really puts her back into the contention after Irene Aldana and, Holly Holm fight, because they need some type of, competitors at 135 for Amanda Nunes. But I got Vieira all day here. -190 is not the greatest line, unfortunately, but I think she is the right side here. And then Sarge just fought. I know she's in shape, but then she's flying across the country, across the world, over to Abu Dhabi, pretty much directly after. I mean, she fought last week, didn't she?
2 weeks, 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Yeah, right. When the hell did she fight? It was definitely at least 2 weeks ago. So she went to a decision. So she fought 15 full minutes on 14 days ago. And then she pretty much had to ship herself out to Abu Dhabi, just 2 weeks later. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of shape she's in. But I'm taking Vieira here to get the win. All right, next up in the flyweight division, this is a great fight between Kai Kara France and Brandon Royval. Right now, France is a -215 favorite, and the comeback on Royval is a +195 underdog. Who do you got?
Man, this is kind of tough. Even once you added in the weigh-in pictures, I didn't realize Royval was that big at 25.
I think he's 5'9". I think he's 5'9" or 5'10". He's pretty tall for the flyweight division.
Yeah, I mean I think you add that in with his jiu-jitsu. He has some good wins. He's coming off submitting Tim Elliott, who I think is always just an awkward style to deal with in his UFC debut. Then you got Kai Kara France, who just went to decision with Tyson Nam, who's streaking right now. So it's kind of a tough fight to call. I want to lean towards Kai Car France just because of the camp, City Kickboxing. I believe they put in a lot of work. You know, you mentioned the fact um, that you have Izzy in the title. You know, that camp is streaking right now. But I don't think it's a bad bet to play both sides in any parlay because, you know, you got value on Roval. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in there, takes him down, and submits him at that. So I think it's a good fight to just really enjoy if you're not
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
looking to bet on every fight. But if you want, I think there's good value on Brandon Roval in this fight.
Yeah, I see a lot of people taking Brandon Royval, and I've been on Royval way before he got into the UFC. I was very high on him coming into UFC. Took him by submission against Tim Elliott as well. So I knew coming in he was a real threat. Now he's ranked at 125 pounds. But I think this is a big step up from Tim Elliott to, you know, Kai Car France. I think Kai Car France is really a potential champion contender soon. I think he just needs maybe 2 more wins. He'll get his title shot. I think he's that good. I mean, he's got double, maybe triple the amount of experience as Royval as well, against much better competition. His only loss in the UFC is against Brandon Moreno, which was a really tough fight. And I think Brandon Moreno would probably beat Royval as well. But Royval is very tricky. He's very, very good on the mat. And if he gets any type of limb, you're in trouble. Like, that's how good his jiu-jitsu is. But I don't think it's going to get there. Kai Car France uses crazy good movement, great in and out striking. He's going to eat up the lead leg of Royval. You know, he's got those skinny legs as being 125 pounds and being super tall. I think he's going to absolutely murder those legs of Royval. And I think he's going to just piece him up on the feet. If Royval does not get this fight to the mat, it's going to be a long, long night for him. But either way, I'm taking France. I'm betting him. I'm confident in him. But this is going to be a very, very good fight. Very good fight. I'm extremely, extremely excited for this fight because I'm a big fan of Royval. I hate, betting against him. And I'm also a big fan of Kai Car France as well. So I'm excited. All right. So we're finally up to the co-main event of the evening for the light heavyweight championship of the world. Right now, Dominic Reyes comes in as a minus 250 favorite, and the comeback on Jan Blachowicz is a plus 230 underdog. Who do you got?
I think this is another one of those tough fights to really call. But you know what? I am going with Jan for the upset. I think you have good value here. He's had some good wins. I was very impressed with the Corey Anderson win. He beat Ronaldo Souza. He lost to Thiago Santos. I thought that was a close fight before he lost. He had some blooper reels in the beginning of his career, but I think a lot of times if you take fights that are 3 or 4 years old, it's hard to go over that because you have to look at the sport as constantly evolving and making sure that the fighter is constantly evolving. So, I think for the value that you're taking Jan at, you can't go wrong with just playing that. I do think Dominic Reyes looked good against Sean Jones. Do I think he won? I think it's a toss-up. You can make a case that he won. You can. I don't think he really did enough to really dethrone John Jones, honestly. But, you take an aging Chris Weidman. You take his split decision against Volkan. Yes, he beat OSP. But are any of those really Jan's caliber? I think you take that, you put Jan in those same things. I think you might even have Jan who beats them better. I think he does finish Chris Weidman. I think he does finish Volkan. I think he does beat OSP as well. So I think if we look at his resume and compare it, I'm leaning toward Jan at this value, honestly.
I could see that, to be honest. But Jan needs to finish Reyes in order to win, though.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how Jan can possibly win a decision over Reyes. Reyes will throw much more volume. He will mix in some takedowns, some clinch work, but Jan's got that. He's got that Polish power. He can knock anybody out. Unfortunately, Corey Anderson fought extremely dumb. Throws a naked leg kick, gets countered, and that's all she wrote. Jan did not look good against Souza at all. That was a very, very dud of a performance. They were just basically hugging each other against the cage for 25 minutes. Very, very ugly fight. But he still won. So, it's a win in his cap. I think he won too. I don't think it was close, to be honest with you. But it was just a bad overall fight. And I just think Reyes is the up-and-coming prospect. And the UFC wants him in this spot. If we think about it, who's more, promising for the UFC? You would say Dominic Reyes. At least I would think so. I think Reyes would give other competitors at 205 a lot more, competition. And then I think Jan would lose to a lot more at 205 than Reyes would. That's just in my opinion. Because Reyes is definitely still much younger than Blachowicz. I think I don't know about that, but at least I think he is. He's still fresh. He's 12-1. His only loss was to John Jones via split decision. So I mean, and that's what's really driving this minus 250 price tag. I do not think he's a minus 250 favorite over Jan at all. Maybe around the Izzy Paulo Costa fight. I think that's around the range where Dominic Reyes should be, maybe minus 160, minus 170. Minus 250 is just a little crazy, to be honest with you. And that's all because people thought he beat John Jones. He was a close fight. It was the closest fight that anyone has had against John Jones in his entire career. But I'm still going Dominic Reyes here. I think he wins, but I like him by decision here. Taking Reyes by decision, you're getting him at plus 250. The only person that's ever deaded Jan Blachowicz is Thiago Santos. The only one. That's in 10 plus UFC fights. He's only been finished once, and that was in the last 6 years. He's only been finished once. So I don't think Reyes is going to come in there and absolutely starch Jan. Jan is very, very tough. But I do think he's able to outstrike him, outwork him over the course of 25 minutes. So I'm taking him. I think he wins by decision. Over 2.5 rounds, I think is a great value as well. Minus 137. I think again, absolutely fantastic value there. And I'm taking Reyes by decision at plus 250. All right, so finally to the main event of the evening. For the middleweight championship of the world, we have champion Israel Adesanya looking to defend his title yet again against Paulo Costa. Right now, Izzy is a minus 175 favorite in the comeback on Costa. It's a plus 165 underdog. Who do you got?
You know what? I think like this, I think it's getting one of the biggest hype jobs out there. And you know what it is sometimes you got to slow down and realistically put down the promotion part of the UFC and just look at certain records. So like, when I really broke down who has Paulo beat, and I go down and I look at him like
Uriah Hall. That's it.
Yeah, and you go down and you're like an aging Johnny Hendricks, Oluwalu Bamboos, and then you look at Uriah Hall and he got dropped by Uriah Hall. I think
and Romero. He got dropped by Uriah Hall and Romero.
Yeah, and you look at those and you're like, man, you take away the muscles and the action figure looking thing, and then if you just break down the fact that Izzy is just going to be a sharpshooter, I think this fight should be relatively easy, and Israel wins this by landslide. I think maybe even finishes them in round 2 or round 3. Once you take away all the promotion and the action figure and the beef and everything, that's who I just lean towards Izzy making this easy. But when you add in the fact that this is MMA and anything can happen in a blooper reel, you just don't know. But I think this is probably the best line you're going to get Izzy at. And I'm heavy on Israel on this one.
Yes. That's what I've been trying to tell people. We're never going to see Izzy at minus 175 ever again. After this, it's just over. He's going to be minus 250, minus 300 for the rest of his damn career because he's going to absolutely beat the dog shit out of Paulo Costa. I'm telling you that right now. If you even watched it, I watched. It's funny because I was at the barbershop yesterday, and these guys know me because I do MMA picks and this and that. So they put on the Romero Costa fight. I'm like, damn, because I watched it again. I'm like, damn, he really did not look good in that fight at all. I mean, yeah, he landed some heavy shots. He missed a ton of shots. He gassed after 2 minutes in the first round, throwing heavy shots. So what is he going to do against a guy that's 8-inch reach advantage over him? He's not going to be able to hit him. He's not going to be able to hit him at all. Izzy's got way more movement to his striking as well. He's never fought anybody with the movement and the length of Israel Adesanya's. And he's only fighting guys like Uriah Hall and Romero and Van Bouzier and Johnny Hendricks, who's standing right in front of him. He's never fought a guy that can move laterally. He's never fought a guy that can stick and move, that's got precision striking that Izzy does. I mean, it's gonna look like a walk in the park, unless. And then Costa's got a gas within 2 rounds. That's guaranteed. If Costa comes in, fights the way he normally fights, which is balls to the wall, balls out, come forward, throw heavy shots, try to knock your block off, he's gassing within 7.5 minutes. But he looks a little thinner. He doesn't look as juiced as he normally does. Maybe they are looking for him to be leaner and get more cardio, and maybe he's going to try to be a little bit more technical and not go too crazy in the first couple rounds. That's going to be a very big downfall if he tries to do that as well. I think that's going to make it even easier for Izzy to just completely pick him apart if he doesn't come forward, if he doesn't just try to knock his head off. It's the only possible way Costa can win is if he tries, just comes full force and just lays leather to Izzy's face. He's going to touch him, but I don't think he's going to touch him enough to put him away. And mind you, guys, Costa has one of the shortest reaches for someone who's 6 foot, 205 pounds. He's only got a 1-inch reach advantage over Kelvin Gastelum, who's 5'9". Just throwing that out there. He's got a 72-inch reach. There's some bantamweights that have a higher reach than Paulo Costa at 6 foot, 205. And to be honest, he doesn't look that big. I mean, yeah, he's chiseled, but Izzy is the much bigger fighter. I don't think people really see that. And we saw him in weigh-ins. He's a much bigger fighter. People thinking, oh, Izzy is this twig. He's super skinny, but that's not true. That dude has muscle. I mean, he's going to be over 200 pounds come tonight. I mean, the dude, it's got muscle on him, and he's going to put it to good use. He's super fast, super technical, and I have no idea how the hell Paulo Costa is going to win this fight. I really don't. I mean, he has to win by knockout. It's got to come within the first 7.5 minutes of this fight, or he's absolutely going to get destroyed from there on out. And minus 175 is an absolute steal. If you think I'm crazy, it is what it is. But I think this is arguably a walk in the park for Israel Adesanya, because guys like Paulo Costa are everything. He's been there, done that. And I'm sorry, I mind you, I'm saying 205. I meant 185. I just realized that after the fact. But yeah, he's got nothing that presents a challenge, to be honest with you. He's the same thing as Yoel Romero, except that he's going to throw more volume and he's going to come forward more. That's about it. He throws just as hard. And Romero landed some good, clean shots on Izzy and didn't really phase him. He just kept doing what he's going to do. And I feel like the same thing's going to happen here. And I think he's going to put Costa away. I think he ends him probably round 2, round 3. He's going to dead him. And he's going, and he said it, he's going to make a statement. And he's looking to come in there and finish him. He's not looking to fight a Romero fight. So I got Izzy all day in this fight. And granted, you should get on it before, 1, it gets steamed even more, and 2, before you'll never see him under minus 200 ever again. I'm telling you that right now. You'll never see him, especially if he wins by knockout. He's going to be minus 300 or better for the rest of his MMA career, unless he faces like John Jones at 205. But other than that, everyone in 185 can get it. I think he could even beat Chimaev as well when that fight actually happens, because it looks like he's about 2 fights away from a title shot. That's how crazy it is. But yeah, that's our breakdown for tonight's massive pay-per-view event. But before we go, man, what can you give everybody as far as like maybe like a play? What's your best bets or your best parlay that you can give out for everybody?
Oh man, I think, like I said earlier, I think this card is very deceiving. I don't even know if I'm gonna personally play, but if I had to choose, I think I am going with the first Russian, Ibrag. I'm gonna Kadis, whatever.
Hadis Ibrahimov.
Yes, I'm going with him on that. I think I'm gonna lean towards young Riddell. I want to play Matthews, but I sniffed something. So I'm not playing the Sanchez Matthews. I will not be surprised if Sanchez somehow channels the inner dog and wins this fight and upsets everybody. So I'm sitting on that, but I'm gonna add Izzy at the end of that also. And if you're feeling a little like daredevilish, add in Jan for the upset on that one as well.
Damn, if you get all 5 of those, that's a plus 2,216 parlay.
Nice.
That's not bad. That's 22 times the money that you put out. So you definitely cannot beat that at all. But yeah, with that said, before we head out, I need to shout out our sponsors. Guys, head over to manscaped.com for the best male grooming products in the market to keep that junk feeling and smelling great. Use promo code TFTA20 for 20% off your order and free shipping. Also, head over to Our Life CBD for the best in CBD products. Use promo code TFA10 for 10% off your order. With that said, man, where can everyone find you on social media?
All right, catch me guys at Why So Serious MMA. Don't be weird. Catch me on Instagram or Twitter.
Hey, yeah, you guys know where to find me. Fight Analyst on Twitter and The Fight Analyst on Instagram and Facebook. Guys, head over to thefightanalyst.com right now. Get my package, only $25. We are going to make a ton of money, especially I got on max bet tonight. Going super heavy on this set play. We're going to make a shit ton of money tonight. So, guys, head over there. Get my plays right now. So, we will see you all cashing out at the ticket window. Until next time.